Oh my goodness. Welcome to another episode of Scouching Live. It is Monday, December 4th at 8 p.m. Today, I just want to start off by reading some ad reads. The show is brought to you by, I'm a little rusty on this whole thing. The show is brought to you by Fanatics. There's a QR code in the bottom left side of the screen. AJ, did you change the scene? I don't see it on the monitor that you've changed the scene over to our camera feed there. There it is. Oh, nope. It's just delayed. Great. This is going super great. Anyway, you can click the barcode in the bottom left of the screen where you can get an affiliate code that will give us a small kickback to support the show from anything you buy on Fanatics using that code. Also, I want to thank Puck Preps for, employing myself and a co-host of mine who currently is not in the room, Mr. Sam McGilligan, who are writers over at Puck Preps. And also Scouching.ca, of course, is the website where you can go and subscribe and get data tools for all your data tool needs for both the NHL and the NHL draft. We added a bunch of new stuff today, prospects in the NHL who have been drafted, and a bunch of cool visualizations there, so you can check that out on Scouching.ca. So today, the show is going to be split into two segments, I guess. The first one's going to be going over some stories going on in hockey, and the second will be answering your questions. So fire away in the comments. I am also joined by my co-host, a gigantic portrait of Rick Vive. Rick, why don't you say hello?
How you doing?
Just kidding. It's Sam McGilligan back there. He'll appear at some point. But yeah, there he is. I mean, you don't have to hold that thing up for the next 2 hours there, buddy, but place it down safely.
The new GTA 6 trailer just dropped.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we can open the show discussing... Oh boy, Sam. We can open the show discussing Grand Theft Auto 6 because that seems to be what everybody's doing on YouTube. When I searched for the trailer, the first 5 links were all reactions
I know,
to a minute and a half long trailer for a video game coming out in 2025.
How old? What was life like in 2013 when GTA 5 dropped for you?
I was, 2013, I would have been in college, music college, and I would have been 22, maybe 23. Life was, I think I was an intern, which was a hoot. But I don't really remember what life was like in 2013. I feel like my adult life has just been a big blur.
Yep.
And everything just gets faster and more insane. What about yourself?
I was in grade 12.
Okay.
I was graduating high school, and I remember GTA 5 coming out and going to pick it up and talking to somebody about what school we were going to go to
right
after graduating. And now I get a trailer for the next game, for the very first one, and I'm planning my 30s. That's how I view that.
Yeah, I mean,
AJ
hey, if it's
here.
good,
I was 12 years old when that game came out.
AJ is a child.
You weren't supposed to play that.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't. My mother was a good parent, and she just never let me play anything until I turned like 16.
Here's my Grand Theft Auto story. When Grand Theft Auto 3 came out,
I was like 6. I remember my brother playing it.
I was in like middle school or grade 9. I had played Grand Theft Auto 2. And thought it was awesome.
Like the top-down one?
Yeah, the top-down one. Yeah. And so I played that one a lot. And then obviously my parents would never, ever buy me Grand Theft Auto 3, especially because it was the 3D one and you could just run around and just destroy everybody. And so I pirated it. My 12-year-old brain managed to find a way to pirate it online. And I played a pirated copy of Grand Theft Auto 3 in private on my own in secret for years. And then I became old enough to figure out how to play those games and went legit afterwards. So that's my introduction to Grand Theft Auto. And I think it's going to be fun. I mean, I loved Vice City. That was a high school game for me, like early high school. And
it looks amazing.
We'll see.
It's going to be wild.
It better be. If it's not, my whole life is over.
Kind of.
My second life is contained entirely in Grand Theft Auto. Actually, I bet there are some people out there where their second lives may very well be entirely.
There definitely is.
Yeah, because Grand Theft Auto Online is like this whole thing, which I don't think I've ever played. I don't know if you do.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay, sure. We can talk about that later. Anyway, welcome to Scouching Live. This is what you get, right? Anyway, we got a good show for you here coming up. We've been doing hard work, looking at a bunch of players that people probably will be asking about. The first topic, we do want to cover some NHL news. We're going to talk a little bit about the Samuel Montembeault extension. Now, the extension itself isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but it does feed into a bigger conversation that we could have about the Montreal Canadiens, especially because Mr. Sam McGilligan is a lifelong, God bless him, a lifelong Montreal Canadiens fan from the greater Toronto area. So,
says the man who has seen one playoff series win since GTA 5 came out.
I just got the Lord to bless you, and you come back with how awful,
vicious hatred,
how awful the city of Toronto is at sports. Anyway, except the 2019 Raptors, that's the saving grace. Anyway, so the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, you're the Canadiens guy. You've seen Sam Montembeault for a few years.
It's fine.
All right,
it's fine. Like, it's a serviceable extension. I don't think it's one of those, like, I love the whole like Went Hughes like win meme that's going around every time he does something, because I do like him as a GM, but it's not really like it's not a crazy move. You have goalies and you signed one for a few years to be a stopgap until we're supposed to be back regular playoff team, and then at that point you either hope he's evolved into an actual like goalie you want to sit there and be like, I rely on this dude in the playoffs,
right?
Or you have someone else. I mean, the Habs took at least 17 goalies in the draft last year, from what I understand.
Something like
this
that.
Is a confirmed fact, by the way.
Right.
A confirmed fact. Rumor has it was all 200 something picks.
They made a lot of trades last year.
So like, this wouldn't happen if they were, or maybe it would. I can't speak that much into the inside process, but like, I don't think you do something like that if you're sitting there going like, Sam Montembeault is the goalie of the Canadiens' future. It's mostly just like a smart investment that might pay itself off, and it has very little risk. So it's still a win, but it's not like this crazy franchise changing move. It's just like, that's just, that's what you want an NHL general manager to do. If you're like concerned that they can't even make those moves, you really don't want him as your general manager.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to get someone else in there.
Yeah. I mean, like $3 million these days doesn't really buy you a lot. And he's like, I think the evidence is there that he's these days like league average in net, and he's on a bad team, which
is a good thing.
Sure, $3 million bucks. And
there's a lot of teams that take a lot of shots.
Yeah,
that look pretty good against the Montreal Canadiens. So he stops quite a few of them.
Yes,
good for him.
That's true. So being a Habs guy, they've got 3 goalies on purpose. What happens next? Because they locked up the one guy. Caden Primo's still kind of hanging around, and there's Jake Allen who's still signed.
If goalies are voodoo and some high-end prospects end up fizzling out just to randomly bounce back later on, so maybe you keep Primo around just to see what's up with that, and worst comes to worst, you want to go on a playoff run with. Actually, I genuinely don't even remember where Laval is in the standings right now.
I don't know. I think they're doing.
Find that out really quickly.
Okay.
Before I continue to.
Yeah, let me just Google the AHL standings.
If Allen's worth something at the deadline to a team, you do it. I mean, I can't believe we got the years out of Jake Allen we did to begin with, and when we acquired him, I don't know of a soul who was like, "Yeah, that's a guy we're going to have for years around." Yeah.
So Laval is 5-15.
So it'll be close, but if they get
it, they've given up 85 goals in 20 games. So there's that. They're on a at least 5-game losing streak.
So they're about as good as the real Habs. I see.
You said that.
Yes, I did.
It's a happy time to be a
Go Leafs go
fan of hockey.
Hey, it's okay. I mean, now I guess we can get into the bigger topic here of the direction of the Montreal Canadiens. We put out this. I don't know. This just makes me laugh. Last week on the show, we went over a bit about Juraj Slafkovsky. I thought we were quite complimentary to him.
I thought we were fair
and very fair. But it seems like everybody who decided to respond directly felt like we were like just burying the guy. I don't know.
I mean, I will say this, like the discussion around Slafkovsky and Reinbacher both have been so wild that like,
I know.
Feel like there are some people who have just done unbelievably like cringy things online on like both sides. It's just like, it's like, it's so extreme. And
Cringe
like,
on the internet?
Flags on the ground, and like people stomping their foot like, no, you're wrong. And it's like, all right, fine. Like,
no.
Do I stand by what I said last week on Slafkovsky? Yes, but that's because there was like a positive outlook of like, yeah, he could still be like a good player. Like, is he gonna be like a superstar like you want to take first overall? I'm not betting yes, but like, I'm a Habs fan. I want that to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting here like, yeah, I want to be miserable about my hockey team because I enjoy it.
I want you to be miserable, Sam.
I would have been a Toronto Maple Leaf. AJ, you didn't even let me finish this.
Of course I didn't.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think it's a little bit out of control. And I think, again, like, AJ, you and I were watching the Montreal Canadiens today in preparation for this episode. And like,
it's a team of guys.
Well, yeah. And with Slafkovsky, specifically with him, like, everything we were talking about last week is absolutely true. Like, when he keeps things simple and dials it down and just uses his body, protects pucks, keeps it simple, he's fine. Like, he's an NHL player.
Absolutely.
It's just, the expectations are relatively high. But anyway, we'll see where he ends up in a few years. But
I did read some of those comments that were talking about, like, that specifically mentioned the Slafkovsky Cooley thing.
Yeah.
And like, I get Slafkovsky has scored a few points lately, guys. Was this after the stream? I think the one
something like that
after I think it was Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know. There was a game where Slafkovsky just like backhanded a puck up along the boards. And then I think it was Dvorak won a foot race against a Columbus player who fell. And then he shot it. And then the rebound bounced in front of the net and Caulfield did his thing. And everyone was like, what a pass by Slafkovsky. And I was like, he just backhanded it up the ice for a 50-50 foot race. He did not know that was going to how the play goes out, because that's not how hockey works. And that's not how hockey players think.
It's funny, the longer you do the whole I'm going to watch hockey a lot thing from like all over the world, the more you realize that it's kind of like, whose line is it anyway? Where like, no matter any time of the game, any game of the season, who's playing where, like, sometimes the rules are just made up and points just do not matter.
Yeah,
like,
sometimes just shit happens.
Yeah.
And like, keep in mind, we're talking about the same player who who got first overall status because of a few lucky bounces at the Olympics and like a point shot, or like a wrist shot from the perimeter, like going in the net, and like plays like that. Like,
yeah,
we're talking about this type of player making that play. It's okay that he's trending the way that he let's hold on. Well, maybe I won't say it's okay, but like, he's trending fine. The increase in production is a bit fortunate, and he's also created some of it as well. Like, I'm not gonna like say it's all luck and stuff like that. Like, he's doing some things and has earned some points, but like, I'm not going to sit here and think that it's going to continue to just like, all right, he's going to score like 0.75 points per game till the end of the season.
Right.
Nor do I sit there and look at Logan Cooley, who is like unbelievably skilled and unbelievably mobile, super shifty, handling NHL pressure really well. Like, people are talking about his point production on the year and things like that. And it's not perfect, but 2 weeks ago, Slafkovsky was in the same, like, all you need is a couple good bounces for Cooley and the argument would swing in our favor. But I wouldn't rely on the point side of it to be like, yeah, I still like Cooley more. I'd look at what Cooley's doing on the ice and go, yeah, in 3 years, that dude's going to be a monster.
Yeah.
And it's not about like who scored the lucky bounce goal last week. It's about like, what do I want in 5 years? I want the dude who's going to dangle the pants off of everybody who gets in his way.
Sometimes you get gimmies, and that's a point on the board. Yeah. Sometimes you work really, really hard and get nothing for it. Yeah. So, I mean, look at Brad Lambert. That guy in his draft year. I mean, we'll talk about Brad Lambert every episode until 2029. Probably. Yeah. That guy in Finland was pretty much doing everything except scoring. Even when he would get like breakaways and like deke the jock out of the goaltender's pants, he'd find a way to save it, and it just wasn't happening.
I watched him hit 2 posts after beating like a defender and then like a goalie, and it's just like, oh man. Or I watched him, I think the most brutal thing was like a pass. It was just like a backhand pass. It was mostly just he took it from behind his own net and basically just like willed a rush up the ice. bypass like 3 dudes, cut inside to cross out the defensive zone, then cut back to the outside, then cut back inside,
Right.
then like fake to cut to the left, but ended up doing this crazy dramatic, like only Brad Lambert can do that cut to the right, backhanded it onto his teammate who caught it, shot it, didn't shoot. The stick was above the puck just like rolled through his feet.
Nice.
I was just like, what more does this man have to do? And then I think in the same game, Kamel just fired a puck on the net and it went in.
Yeah. So
that was a very interesting couple months.
Yes. So I mean, we'll be Brad Lombard stands for the rest of time for sure. I mean, okay. So before we move on from the Habs, I think it would be kind of interesting to just, again, this is not final statements on any of these players.
No, it's 100% definitive.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitive. So the last couple of years in the NHL draft under Kent Hughes has been quite interesting because AJ with the Leafs, them not necessarily doing super great in the draft when they were really bad is kind of part of the reason that they have trouble with depth nowadays, I think. Yes. You might agree with that.
Yeah, I also agree with that.
And so it's very important to not just nail the first overall pick you get, but also the other ones. And so for 2022, I'll just run down the board and you can stop me whenever you want me to stop.
I enjoy pain.
Okay, so Slafkovsky at 1.
No, 22 is not.
Yeah, 22 actually looks pretty decent. Yeah, you got Slafkovsky at 1. Massar at 26, who has found a nice touch today this year. Like the Kitchener Rangers are very, very good, and a lot of people have a lot of points, and I feel like Massar drives a lot of that bus.
He was a really good player in a pro league who like looked head and shoulders smarter than everyone. His adjustment to the OHL was so like, I don't want to say for sure what it was, but the amount of times like a European guy comes over to the CHL and doesn't do amazing right away, it's like, yeah, well, he just moved as a like university age student across half the world. Like I struggled with things when I went to school 35 minutes away. And like these guys are halfway across the world on smaller ice. Like they have to figure things out. And there's a language barrier for a lot.
It's true.
Like, and the systems and the way they play are so different. And some coaches will just be like, I don't want you to do that. Do this.
Yeah.
It's not an easy adjustment. And it's not surprising to anybody. I had Massar in the early 20s, so just a few picks before 26. He's still not who I would have taken at that pick, Brad Lambert. But I mean, like he's awesome. He's a great. I'm really happy to see that he's bounced back.
I had Massar higher, I think, and I mean, at the time, I thought that was a great pick. I mean, you just knew that.
It was one of the picks that when it was made, I was like, it's not Brad Lambert, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, like he was ranked, where was he? Like at 13 for me? Wow, I had him really high.
Jeez. Him at 13?
Yeah. Wow, I mean, that range, though, like in that draft, was really close from like that whole first round. But anyway, beyond that, they went on and took Owen Beck. He's fine. I mean, there's a lot of hype about him.
Seamus Casey and Gleb were probably the guys I want to go with. But Owen Beck, will play in the NHL. I do think people are a little going nuts on his upside, but like he's a solid guy. I'm happy to have him in the pool.
Lane Hudson. How could I forget Lane Hudson at 62?
I was going to be like, bro.
My mistake.
Lane
sorry.
Hudson sucks.
Sorry, Lane. We love you. I mean, what more can we say about Lane Hudson and how much potential there is with that guy? I don't know about
just
like
absurd hockey player.
Yeah, just such an interesting player. Like even if like I get the argument of like, well, he's very tiny and isn't the best defender, but I'm more just like interested.
He's not a bad defender. He's just doesn't have the physical tools to be a better one than he is. But like, so I guess what I said did just kind of, that's a bit
tomato potato.
Yeah, tomato potato. But like, if that bone density had a little bit more growth to it and he was like 6 feet, people wouldn't be talking about this because he's not a bad defensive player. But like at his height, and it's like, there's a lot of players who are going to smush him.
The bone growth maybe needs to come a little bit longer, the bone growth chart. But in any case, I'm more just interested to see what happens with him because there's so much potential. And at the very, very worst case, he's going to be a hell of a defenseman in Sweden. Speaking of playing in Europe, Vinzen's Rohrer. He's fine. He's a fine Swiss Pro League player. I don't know how much more we need to say about him. Super smart, works hard, doing okay. Adam Engstrom doing okay as well. Quite a good SHL player, good puck handler, good stick handler. Cedric Gandon, Jared Davidson, Emmett Croteau, Pateri Nurmi, and Miguel Turini, I think, are all a bit of a wash, but they're guys, it's the fourth round and beyond. Gandon's maybe a guy, but the rest of them, eh. And then 2023 will go quick. David Reinbacher, I don't know if you've seen any of him this year.
I checked it. Same thing what I said last week. I've looked, but not intensely, and I get sad.
Right. Jacob Fowler has been having an excellent freshman year. Florian Jacquet is Arbor Jacquet's brother.
He's forward. Definitely Arbor Jacquet's brother.
Go to net, bash puck.
Yeah.
Speaking of bash puck, Bogdan Konyushkov. He's a fine KHL defenseman, cool. Quentin Miller is not having a great season in Quebec in net, which is
why we draft multiple goalies in a year, because you never know.
Some guy named Sam Harris went in the 5th round. Yevgeny Volokhin.
We tried the whole draft the late Russian goalie thing, but I don't think we fully understood how the strategy works. I'm claiming I'm an expert on it either. So for just saying that increased Volokhin's likelihood of being a star by 10%, but so you're welcome, everybody.
I mean, he's rocking a 940 save percentage in the MHL right now on a really good team, granted, but he's doing okay.
That's not bad. The MHL is.
Yes,
but that number isn't bad and looks very fancy, and we can, post it all over Twitter for now and get people hyped, and then forget about it in 3 years when the new shiny toys come along.
So this question just popped in my head. Since you're a Habs guy and Habs fans on the internet are extraordinarily online.
Toxic?
Would you rather the discussions around players be doomer style, overwhelming, too much doomer, or too much hype? Which is more annoying to you?
Honestly, the hype, because the doomer people, every doomer exists because they have finally given up on the hype stage. I remember in 2013 being on r/Habs and watching how hyped everyone was about the prospect pool, and the energy level from then until now has never changed. The only thing is how many people swap camps. Eventually you just stop wanting to be a doomer. I wouldn't, because I'm a pessimistic bastard. But I'm not a doomer. I just try and be realistic with it. I'll gas Lane Hudson up to the extent other than saying he's Quinn Hughes 2.0, because he doesn't have the feet for it. But everything else, I love the player to death. And Massar and everybody else is I'll be realistic about these guys. And I liked Jesse Ylonen back in 2017. I'm surprised that ended up working itself out, because I would like Josh Brook equally as much, and I haven't heard of Josh Brook in a while.
I believe he got hurt many times in a row. Right.
Yeah.
I always liked Josh Brook as well.
It's just the guys who go crazy, and this can be said about all fan bases. I don't think Montreal is particularly worse than Ottawa. I'm opening that can of worms.
Oh God! Well,
I'm doing this. Will's not complicit.
Let's just blast through that.
Or Toronto. Toronto fans are terrible.
Toronto fans too, but at least they're winning.
Yeah.
Not when it matters, but they're a winning team.
But they want to trade Nylander. So
yeah, well, they want to trade Nylander because they're dumb.
At this point, if you suggest to trade William Nylander, I feel like you should just spontaneously combust.
Just need to
be banned
at that
from the
point,
internet.
You're telling on yourself as someone who wants to you're not interested in the Leafs being the best team they can be, if that's the case.
Yeah.
The same can be said. The same was said about Montreal Canadiens for a very long time as well. I don't know. The people who are Habs fans can just go absolutely nuts with it. And then the problem with it is that they just, once their expectations aren't met, they will just go nuts on the complete opposite side. Most of the crazy fanboys are doomers, and they just they're just in this weird spin cycle. They're hyping this up and then dooming the thing that they didn't live up to the hype that they're now giving the new thing. And that thing is a year and a half old. Right. I'm just waiting for the Arbor Jacquet period, the shiny new toy period to end, and people to be man,
I will.
Doesn't do what I wanted him to do after years of this. So
he's an entertaining hockey player, though. He's entertaining,
like
and that's part of the game.
Look, if you can be a fan, if you're entertained by him, I don't judge. It's like I don't judge for like any of that stuff. I probably just shouldn't judge in general.
I wonder what a handshake. I wonder what a handshake from him feels like.
Breaks.
I just feel like he has just meaty paws.
I shop at the Costco that he was like that big story. I find that insane because I'm just sitting there trying to just be like, it took me so long to realize that that's the Costco that people like, yeah, you worked at Costco. And I swear you just kept hearing it and being on Sportsnet and stuff. And one time like a picture showed up and I was like, wait. And I looked it up. I was like, yo, that's my Costco.
You very well could have been in a Costco reaching for the fusilli on the second rack.
And then some hand just come from the other side and it just broke my fingers.
You pull down the giant bin of fusilli and like on the other side is Arbor Jackai and he's like stalking the other side and putting like a canoe in there or something.
One time I was actually in that Costco and I was just minding my own business, just like getting some produce and stuff like that. And then turned around and some dude just hit me with his hip and I went flying through the wall and knocked over a skid of strawberries. And honestly, I think now it was Arbor Jackai.
Yeah. Well,
true
maybe
story.
it was.
Definitely all legitimate.
Exactly. So the other interesting topic of conversation that we sort of cobbled together over the week was last week we talked a little bit about the New Jersey Devils and their insane power play and everything, but they still have trouble, winning. So what we did was we went back and watched, some Devils hockey here and there, and especially AJ and I, and just kind of tried to dig into what's going on there. And if it is sort of like maybe a moment to panic, if anyone out there also is, I'm not a Barstool guy, but I do appreciate Frank the Tank. I don't know if you know who Frank the Tank is. Yeah. And he was at the Devils game the other night. If that guy were sitting behind me, I would be, I don't usually get mad, but I would stand up and turn around and scream right back at him because of how loud that guy is. It's so bad, it's good. Like he's so unhinged that it's hilarious.
Like on one side of the spectrum, there's like Frank the Tank, and then on the other side of the spectrum, there's like Heat Daddy, and you just want to put them you just want to put them in a room and just be like, you're not exactly the type of content for me on either side, but the two of you together would be so funny.
I would eat that up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I really, really would. And also the thing about him too, I see this on TikTok once in a while. His knowledge is unbelievable about stuff. The
Frank.
Yeah. Like they'll ask him in the office, they'll be like, hey Frank, who are the 5 leading Mets batters in hitting doubles? And it'll take him like a minute and he'll just rifle them all off. Now it may very well be like produced and he looks it up in advance because the internet, people lie on the internet, unlike what what's his name, Buster from Arthur, no, nobody ever tells lies on the internet.
No.
But I like to believe that his knowledge is real. But anyway, with the New Jersey Devils, we kind of nailed down a couple of things there going on. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of injuries, the guys coming in and out of the lineup.
Yep.
Very important players. Every time Jack Hughes touches the ice, you kind of go, okay, now this guy's probably this guy's probably one of the best players in the league.
He's magical. He's so magic. Much fun to watch.
Indisputable.
Yeah,
he is one of the best in the league.
Ridiculous hockey player.
Like, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it. He is almost like, well, it's not almost. He's like better Patrick Kane, like Patrick Kane, but center and can play defense, but sacrifices a bit of shooting ability to do so. Well, I think I'm gonna take Jack Hughes, man.
Yeah, like it's very like McKinnon-like, just high speed, high intensity, just all over the ice, doing everything. But when he's not in the lineup, you notice. Even with Nico Hischier there, who's also very good,
hockey player.
Yeah, and like they've got Dougie Hamilton, who is now out for God knows how long with a torn pectoralis muscle, which is probably a pretty awful muscle to tear, especially for a hockey player. I'm sure it's not very fun.
No.
The other thing too is the goaltending, just straight up. Like what's the saying? Show me a bad coach and I'll show you a bad goaltender, or something like that.
Show me a good coach and I'll show you a good goaltender.
Okay, so that's the same thing. The opposite could be true
just
as well,
with
right?
a positive spin on it.
Yes, because I mean, what Vitek Vanacek we looked was an 876 goaltender so far this year, and Akira Schmid is like an 890 or something like that. So they're not saving pucks, which is problematic.
They're
but
also doing no favors defensively.
Exactly.
We watched the Sharks game today.
Yeah,
and we saw just the breakdown that would happen just because it's just insane. You saw that goal where there's 3 guys looking at nowhere basically, and then what was it? Anthony Duclair just sneaks in and taps it in.
Right. It was not pretty. And yeah, so a combination of all those things. It is kind of funny, like you saying, over time, watching people online come to terms with the, let's say, limitations of a hockey player, and like how it seems like people are starting to pick up on the weaknesses in like a guy like Luke Hughes' game. And both of us are big Luke Hughes people. We really like him.
Yeah.
But you notice when you watch him over a long period of time that when he's good, he's real good. When he's not, especially without the puck, it's very, very problematic.
It can be.
Yeah. And Philip Machar making his NHL debut also was very interesting. We watched that game. He had 2 points.
You mean Nemitz, right?
Yes. Nemec.
Philip Nemec.
I honestly had to get my snow tires put on the car this morning, mounted on some rims, and I got it first thing in the morning, and I did not sleep well last night. So I'm a little bit slow today, even though I had a little nappy poo after the work day. But anyway, Simone Nemec's first day on the job.
Tires.
Yeah. You don't have winter tires.
Not yet. I just got.
Oh, you just got your car,
yeah,
right?
I just got my car.
Your car with 4 differently tinted windows?
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
That's such a Sam McGilligan thing.
Okay,
to do.
so now because this has been mentioned, I feel the need to like explain this because it makes
who cares about the New Jersey Devils?
Yeah,
like
it makes it
they'll figure it out.
It makes it sound like the car is one of those just like what the hell situation. And okay, it's a 2014 Hyundai Genesis that less than 4,000 kilometers on it because some high-end tint shop somewhere else in the world bought it, tinted each window ever so slightly different, and displayed it in their cool-ass office for a decade, and then went, well, let's get a new car to put in there, and then sold it back to the dealership, who sold it to a different dealership, who...
Then you.
I bought it, and I bought it for less than 3,000 last week, and I just drive a lot, so now I have to say it's less than 4,000.
Right.
But it's sick as hell. It has brand new car smell, and it's a decade-old car, and I don't know when the next person in Canada will be buying a brand new 2014 car is, but I was the one who did it this year.
All right.
And that's pretty awesome.
The adventures of Sam McGilligan in your life I just find it so fascinating.
Yeah.
And
that can be its own stream.
Yeah, like that can be a segment, AJ. We can just do a day in the life of Sam McGilligan once in a while when crazy stuff happens.
Nobody would watch it. Often. Sorry, Sam.
I didn't do it.
I don't think so. I think people
would just watch his own content.
Yeah, that's true. Well, on that note, I think we can move on because I mean the Devils, whatever. They're hurt a lot. They don't have much goaltending, and a lot of their defenders have trouble defending.
Be really good. I feel like I owe this to Devils fans for interrupting this. So like they will be really good. Dawson Mercer, I'm still a big fan of. My only complaint with your organization is the whole Holtz thing. I know it's not all on the organization, and that there's some player responsibility for that, but he is gross and he shoot the puck really good, and the team could use puck shoot good. So I don't know. I haven't seen Holtz in a bit, so I don't really know where we're standing on this. I just remember like a year ago looking at him being like, hey, what's going on here? Because this is kind of weird.
I saw a game or two of him earlier, like before the stream came back, and he's still Alex Holtz. You know, we say that a lot about players as they're getting it going in the NHL.
It's because players don't usually change that much.
Right. Good straight line, north-south guy, wicked shot. I think he's on pace. If he gets maybe a couple bounces going his way, he might hit 30 goals this year. I think he's got like 8 goals so far through like 20 games. So maybe he hits 30. Which would be nice in a first full-time NHL season.
Okay, so he has done more of a bounce back than.
Yeah,
I mean, his stat line doesn't make it seem like there was just this period of time. I feel like, and maybe Devils fans will crucify me for a misunderstanding it, but I swear, just from like what my Twitter page said, it was Devils fans were a little like, "What's going on with Holtz?" and some were like mad at the org. some were mad at the player. Basically, like every situation with a hockey prospect ever, when when fan base is kind of divided, half yell at one side, half yell at the other side. I like him. I feel like I'm surprised it took him a little bit longer, but if he's on pace for 30 goals this year, I guess it's not nearly as dramatic as.
Yeah. I mean, like, I remember watching Alexander Holtz in his draft year and thinking that he was clearly very talented, like especially in the ways that he is, scoring goals and pretty good skater and gets around the ice pretty well. But there just wasn't a whole lot else, like creativity and like puck handling and everything. Like it just sort of was like, I can shoot really, really well, so I'm going to shoot a lot from everywhere. And in my experience, that is often a bit of a red flag of kids who score a lot of goals by shooting from everywhere. And a bunch of times it comes from places where you do not score goals. But at the junior levels or at maybe even the SHL level once in a while, it does work.
Yes.
But anyway, if he hits 30 goals this year, after getting a little better over the course of the season, I would not be surprised, and probably would help out the Devils quite a bit. Now, let's move on, because there was some pretty big prospect news, I guess you could say, World Junior news, because that's coming up in a little while. Everybody has a take on this, and I think we absolutely need to participate in the World Junior Championships roster release for the Americans. So, I mean, we can just run down the list of who's there very quickly. So, if you don't know, the United States, for their preliminary roster, are bringing Gavin Brindley, noted fans, Quinn Finley. Cool. Sure. Cutter Gauthier, James Haggins. We can talk about Haggins in a bit because he's kind of having a bit of a coming out party, I think, here. Gavin Hayes, Isaac Howard, Ryan Leonard, Rutger McGroarty, Oliver Moore, Frank Nazar III, got to have that in there. Danny Nelson, Gabe Perreault, Will Smith, Jimmy Snuggerud, Kerry Torrance, and William Whitelaw up front. On defense, you've got Zeev Buyam, Seamus Casey, Ryan Chesley, Drew Fortescue, someone named Patrick Geary, Lane Hudson, Jack Livanovich. It's been a while since I've watched him play and listened to. I think it's Livanovich, something like that.
That was a different one than the first two you said.
Yes, I know. Livanovich. I don't know. Aaron Minetian, Eric Polkamp, one of my back pocket guys. Eric Polkamp, Sam Renzel closes out defense. And in net, you've got Trey Augustine, Jacob Fowler, and a guy named Sam Hillebrandt playing for the Barrie Colts. So, early thoughts. Everybody is asking about Quentin Musty, Cole Iserman, and Hunter Brustevitz not being on the roster. None of those really surprised me. Maybe Musty a little, but
yeah, I mean, we watched Musty the last time when was the last time Musty would have been wearing an American jersey? Was that
probably the Hlinka? Yeah, I think it would have been the Hlinka.
That was a camp where I remember watching him play for Team Gray or whatever the hell he was.
Sure.
And he showed up to that camp like he already knew. Well, I mean, he did already know he was going to be on that team. And he was like, I remember being like, this is what you got at this level of play, man. And then the Hlinka, he was fine, but not like what you wanted. I wonder if there was a talk, and it was all rumor, and I'm not confirming anything, but I just wonder if maybe that had credibility and played into it, or maybe there was just another reason, or maybe he's hurt and playing through an injury. I doubt it, because he has been kind of on fire lately,
yes.
Has he not?
He has a ton of production.
Yes. That's the one where I'm like, okay, it's weird. At least like not making the team, I can see it. Not going to the preliminary camp, that's USA being upset about something, maybe.
I mean,
I don't know.
At first I'm going, I could kind of see it.
There's a lot of politics that play into things like that. And we can get into the fun part where I don't think the politics play into the Hunter one. But
it's just strange. Like, it's strange that of all the CHL guys they brought, they said no to Musty and said yes to Gavin Hayes and Kerry Torrance. And I really like Kerry Torrance.
I do too, but not. I wonder if the other part of it is just like, do you still get some traditional lineup thinking? So like you already know without knowing, the first line is Perreault, Smith, Leonard. Like we all already pretty much know that will be the case.
Probably Gauthier, Snuggerud, McGroarty because they're older.
Maybe
They're
but
returnees.
True. It could be either way. Like there's your top 6 in general right there is going to be something like that. And then you've got guys like Oliver Moore and Gavin Brindley also on the team. That's like an unbelievably stacked top 9 that Musty kind of doesn't fit in with, especially if you've got like a Moore Brindley line. It doesn't matter who the left wing is almost, as long as they have a lot of pace and just make quick, fast decisions. And Musty wants the puck to kind of do some stuff. And then do you have your traditional, checking fourth line or something like that? Because if you do, Musty doesn't really fit on it. Neither does Cole Yzerman.
Right. I also will say, I think from what I understand about USA Hockey is they value their NTDP program like a lot.
As they should. It's
and
amazing.
I thought that this was true, and I Googled it to make sure, but Carey Torrance did play on the NTDP last year for a little while.
Yeah, he's played in the jersey.
Yeah, so he's worn that jersey. Quentin Musty has not, right? I don't think he ever was an NTDP guy. So that probably factors into it.
A little bit, maybe.
Right.
I don't think Gavin... Gavin Hayes doesn't have any NTDP history.
I don't think he does either. Yeah, I mean, Gavin Hayes is weird. I mean, maybe he's a guy that gets cut, but who knows?
I think the Musty thing, the Musty one is the one where I'm like, that is an interesting...
Yeah.
Cole Yzerman makes more sense. People look at Yzerman's stat line and expect a different player than he is. His touch with the puck isn't as delicate or like controlled as you think. Like sometimes they'll see him like try and catch a pass and he just straight up bobbles it, like notably. I don't want to like talk about how that will affect him in the NHL, because there's a lot of ways that can be addressed by then. But like we are talking about a tournament that's happening in 3 weeks, and like you're also talking about a guy who doesn't really have a spot in the top 6. That team will score so many goals and own so much possession that like it's a moot point being like Yzerman scores a lot of goals. It's like that they're not going to struggle to score goals. Like that's not what they're going to look for, possession guys and stuff like that. And Yzerman's not the most fleet of foot. He doesn't back down physically. Like that's a cool thing. But like, do you want to play him in a checking role? I mean, like I guess you can. There's no downside to it. But like Yzerman's interesting because you could have at the very least shoved him on the first power play unit and then given him like 13th forward or like 12th forward minutes.
Right.
And just let Yzerman bomb like 7 goals across the tournament, being fed from Lane Hudson and Smith and all them. But at the same time, that power play is not going to not score. That power play won't score less goals because Yzerman's not on it. It'll just be a more like who scores the goals will just be spread out.
Yeah.
Like we're talking maybe 8 goals versus 9 or something. It's like, and way better 5v5 control.
Yeah. And he'll be there next year.
He'll be there next year. Maybe even the year after that. I don't think Hagens is going to make the team either. I think it would be cool if he did, but I don't think he will.
So let's do that. Let's talk about James Hagens for a little, because you've seen a lot of him. I have seen a bit of him. Why is he on the team? Like, why is he here? And a guy like Yzerman isn't.
Hagens can jump in with the big boys, and I'm by like the top 6 guys, and he would play at their pace and just like elevate all of them the same way that they elevate each other. Basically, like he just plays so well with smart attackers. Like he's so smart. He's very shifty and agile. He's great short passes. Like you can't even see his. Like there'll be times where I'm watching him and he's like in a kind of a messy board battle, and then suddenly the puck is just out on someone's stick. I'm like, I'll go back and I'll like slowly click pause play at like 0.25, and I'm like, is that Hagens who did this? And then it's just like I just see his stick do boop.
Yeah.
And it's like there's the puck out to somebody. And it's plays like that. He's an incredible open ice attacker. He handles pressure like a legend. His vision is just incredible. He's one of those like just keep your stick on the ice and Hagens will find you kind of players. Like he deserves consideration he 100% deserves consideration. Whether he makes the team, USA's just got a lot of options. They're not trying to make hockey Twitter happy. They're trying to win gold medal. Can Hagens help? Yes. Is the difference between Hagens and someone older different or like substantial?
At this point, yeah. I mean, I guess the point that we're kind of beating around is like this team is loaded.
Yeah, this team is loaded.
This American team is loaded. Like I know that today they were supposed to release the Team Canada sort of roster, and they've postponed it a couple. I mean, in my humorous sense of
trying to figure out
humor.
what to do with
It's
Tristan
because they're
Thompson.
terrified of this team, and they're like, well, maybe we should like second guess a little bit of this and like think about this a little more, because I don't know. I think no matter what Canada brings out, I get the feeling that unless Canada gets a bunch of guys back from the NHL, which I just don't know is going to happen, that the Americans are going to be the team, right? Like, no matter where you look, even the guys that are like going to be their fourth line, maybe like I don't know, Carey Terrance. I don't know if it'll be like a William Whitelaw down there.
If it's a William Whitelaw down there, that's just hilarious. That's
Like,
like
you
way too
could.
much skill to put on a fourth line. If it's like Terrence and Nelson and someone else, it's
Yeah.
like, is that the fancy line?
No.
Is it going to get the job done when they're out there?
Yeah.
Yes. Is a team like this, is like the Swiss team going to see them out there and be like, oh wow, I'm really happy that's not Cole Eiserman? No, they're going to be like, oh man, this sucks. Like, no matter what, they're just going to be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of these guys have played together, especially the NTDP, because they played so much time together. It's like, you don't understand the advantage that creates. Like when the US NTDP went to the Five Nations tournament, the chemistry they had versus the other teams that, didn't have a chance to play many games together and practice many times together for years is so obvious. All talent could have been equal, and the NTDP still would have floored them. The only game they lost, I think, was the Swedish game, where they were up 5-0 going into the third and had a collapse of all collapses. Then it motivated them. I think they scored 20-something goals in the next 3 games.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. Real close. You want the NTDP playing together because it's the only national team junior program that like consistently keeps all the kids together all the time. So yeah, bring Danny Nelson, bring the guys who have played together. It makes sense. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we want to really dive in too much, but like the other guy people were confused about was Hunter Brustavits. I think it's as simple as like, you have better versions of him already there.
I remember you said this earlier in the chat. It was just like Hudson and Casey are already on the team and both of them do the job better. Hunter's a good player. I don't think it's the OHL politics thing because other guys are there.
Yeah.
Like Gavin Hayes, they didn't look and go like, I'm really mad at Hunter for not, for going to the OHL. But Gavin Hayes is that difference maker we need. I mean, no disrespect to that Gavin Hayes, but it's fine. Just like, I don't think it's the political thing. It's still one of those, like, I would have brought him to the preliminary camp just to see. But like, I wouldn't have. Yeah, like I'm just
not
like,
a huge Hunter Brustavits guy.
I'm not a huge
at all,
fan either. I just know he's improved. I don't know to what extent because I haven't like focused in on him yet. But based on everything I've known him up to this point, it's like you're not a guy that I'm passionate for to play for the US NTDP.
Especially like Aaron Manetian is on the team, and I remember last year thinking Aaron Manetian was more of a refined player.
I like Manetian
a lot.
I liked Manetian a lot. Just if anything, just for the fun aspect, and like Manetian also kind of brings that offensive. Like, there's a lot of offensive options.
Yeah, and I mean, I also like Eric Polkamp. I think was someone that a few people sort of shrugged at a little. Like, you bring Polkamp, but not Brustavits, and to me, I've watched Polkamp for the last 2 years. Like, he was a guy who flirted with my list 2 years ago, and I think was on the tail end last year. And yeah, like he gets around the ice better than Brustavits. He's a better defender, I think. Not great, but neither is Brustavits. So I don't know. I just look up and down this roster and go, yeah, I don't think I take. I mean, maybe Jack Livanovich,
Smooth,
maybe. But in any case, this American team, you can nitpick all you want, but
if you're gonna have Casey on one pairing, Hudson on another pairing, you probably don't want a third pairing with another guy who might cause defensive issues. I mean, I'm not saying Casey and Hudson will. They'll have a low light that people will post on Twitter here or there.
Yes, alongside
many other highlights, and they will do the offensive side, like everything that you want Hunter to be there for. Hudson will do better. Like, I'm so confident in saying Hudson will do that better, and I'm so confident in saying Seamus Casey will do that better. So it's like, and both played for the NTDP
Yeah.
and have USA history, like all just running through their veins. It's obvious why those two are there, and you don't want 6-lane Hudsons, or maybe you do.
Well,
if you have 6-lane Hudsons, the other team might not be able to play attack because they'll never get the puck.
That's so in the clouds, because I hope that maybe happens one day, but I don't think it ever will.
3-lane Hudsons with a tricycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing before we move on to the questions from the stream, I did want to say, like, someone mentioned in the comments, I think I saw it, that the Slovakian team is out. I haven't seen it, but I did look at their team.
Yeah, you were talking about it earlier.
Their team last year, I forgot how young they were. And they went pretty deep, didn't they?
Yeah, and they're all better now.
They went to okay, so they lost in the quarterfinal. But here are the names that are almost certainly going to be there this year. So you've got Dalibor Dvorsky, say what you will, good junior player. Maxim Sturbach, solid defenseman. Sam Honzik probably will be there.
He'll bruise some dudes.
Alex Chiernik.
We like Chiernik.
Awesome. Martin Mishak. I love him to the ends of the world. Adam Shakora. Also a very talented player.
Yes.
I imagine he'll be there. Servac Petrovsky is another one who he's fine, but he'll be there. Adam Guyan in net was great last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big reason why he got drafted. And then you've got maybe Simon Nemec, maybe coming back. I don't know if he will, especially now that Dougie Hamilton's out for a while. And the NHL is more important than the World Juniors, as much as it pains us prospect geeks. And Philip Machar, I would assume, will also be there.
He should be there.
Yeah, he should
be floored if he wasn't.
Yeah.
I expect him to be like a first line guy there, if anything, or at least like the offensive guy driving the second line.
Yeah. And one of my guys from last year that I loved at the World Juniors, František Dej, is back. He's an 05. Zoom kaboom guy. Just goes around, big, crushes dudes. They're going to be a tough team. I think they're in the US division. I think I could be wrong, but they are going to be good. I think they're going to give the Czechs a run for their money. I think in that division, if this is the core of the team that's coming back. I don't think they'll have a ton of 05s that are like, new to the team, that are, underrated that could help, but that core of 04s is going to be darn good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess unless there's anything else you would like to bring to the table for this wonderful show.
USA silver medal is my prediction, even though they are the best looking team on paper, because I am officially saying it, although I think I have also said it twice in the past, but it doesn't matter. This is the year Sweden wins gold. This is
they will have a good team.
They have, and I actually already thought this before I came to this realization, but the gold medal U18 team and the God squad they're all here.
That's
at the
true.
U20. Like they're D+2 years now. They're all 19 turning 20. Noah Oslin, Lekkerimäki, Ogren, Kalliodelis, the Djurgården quadret are going to be there, and the four of them are disgusting together. They're going to have Bistedt. They're going to have
Sandin Pellikka.
Yep.
Lekkerimäki.
Stenberg. They're going to have a lot of fun guys. David Edstrom as well. Like that's a good team, man.
Yeah.
Like that's not and it won't happen. Leo Carlson going down will make it so much easier to say it and probably like raise confidence for other people in doing it maybe. But like I'm such a big fan of the Djurgården kids, especially Oslin, Ogren, and Nodelius. Sorry, Lekkerimäki, I do really like you too. But like the other, like I am such a fan of all four of them and quite a few other players on that team. I think that this could be the year. However, as you mentioned earlier when we were chatting about it, goaltending always determines the tournament. They have enough solid goalies that just one of them needs to be hot and we're set.
Right. I mean,
but if they don't, then this conversation never happened, and I'm deleting it from the internet.
I will plaster it everywhere.
Yeah, AJ, I was just gonna say, you gotta clip it and we'll post it to TikTok every day. I mean, the Swedes are almost certainly, I would say, bringing Melker Thelin, who Arizona drafted last year, a guy playing in the second division and third division in Sweden, and he's been playing pretty well. So you never know. Like he might be good enough. A guy that just comes out of nowhere and makes a name for himself in this
Yeah.
tournament. It has happened many, many times before.
Yeah.
The Swiss team, on the other hand, I mean, they're there. They've got Danilo Stinkov. They've got Rodwin Dionisio, who's a guy. We'll see what happens with them. But in any case, we can move on to the questions because I feel like people have waited long enough for that. We got a good one right off the top. Thoughts on Miguel Marquez? Everybody seems to be talking about Miguel Marquez because I think he has like a gajillion points in the last 10 games.
Yeah, he's been on fire. He's mostly just been like a waiting to come out party. Like Puck Preps has been on Miguel Marquez for years. Joel Henderson ranked him like 4th overall in the WHL draft. Like he's a well-known commodity. It's just been waiting to like kind of put together. He's something for Puck Preps is going to be coming out about like the 2006 update we just did, and I added him as like one of our highest risers because he's trending even higher than where we do have him, to be honest. Is that he's one of those, he doesn't realize how good he is, guys, or like he knows, like I'm not going to say like he doesn't know how good he is, but like he doesn't realize how many times a game he can just be that guy and just like do something. And these last few games have been why he did it. He had one of my favorite plays of the season in a game I watched. It was the one you tracked that you said was just like absurdly broken game when he was just like at a lull at his own blue line and just 2 guys were on him and he just spun around and he's just like, he's not going quick. He's just going really slow and methodical. He's like putting a puck through one dude's legs and like curling it around to his heels after. And the guy's literally turning around like, where is this guy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said it. I mean, I did a game of him this week and he was unhinged. Like
it was so broken.
It was one of the best games I've ever tracked in my career.
I thouot you were kind of hyping that up a bit, and then I watched it with Joel, and me and Joel were just sitting there laughing.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he's not a god. Like he's not gonna be, I don't know, maybe a first round pick, maybe by the end of the year. Maybe. But I don't know. Like he's still a little heavy footed. The things you want to see don't really come out enough because he does kind of struggle to get separated from guys. But damn, is he ever?
I like the way he
super
moves.
skilled.
Like he's a bit heavy-footed, but like I don't dislike the way he moves, especially when it comes to like those small area things. Like he can turn off of guys really well, and he just needs to kind of like make a pass and play the give and go a bit more, and to just do these things that he's all very, very capable of doing, and he shows flashes of all the time. Like when he runs a give and go, the only thing I think is like, why don't you do this like every transition? Like you can't be stopped. When like someone, they only can stop you when they can focus on you alone. But just play, like just route yourself away, split with the guy, or do anything that just forces 2 defenders to go make a decision. And then from there, you're set.
I'll say this about Marquez too. Like
he's awesome.
from this draft class, there's not that many guys where I've gone, whoa. Like,
yeah, he's
whoa.
like, whoa.
Like there are some moments with Miguel Marquez where you go, whoa. Like the skill that he's got to like open up goaltenders and then roofs it. Like there was a couple of goals that I've seen him score this year where it's just like, okay, so that was one of the most fun things I've seen out of anyone eligible in this year's draft.
Yeah,
so maybe
100%.
Maybe he goes on a tear down the last stretch of the season. I think he's in my second round right now. Let me just double check that. He's at 37 for me. So second round.
Late first.
Like second round.
First. I haven't moved him since that. Like I haven't moved him yet to where I think I'm going to be moving him. I think right now I probably see him as like an early 20s guy, but I haven't put him there yet. Just haven't stared at the list long enough to figure out where.
I will take this opportunity to try to do a better sales pitch for Scouching.ca. If you want to have live access to my rankings as they change over the course of the season, you can get it from Scouching.ca at the partner tier. So if you go there, subscribe, you can see how things change for me over the course of the year. And then you can ask me as many questions as you want about it during the live streams or privately if you desire that through Discord or the question box that's on the site.
Fortunately, you can't see how mine changed because it's really stupid process. I only like how they come out at the end.
Yeah, Sam's like the Bob McKenzie's Bob McKenzie. Like his list comes out the day before the draft. Yours comes out never before the draft. It's like a day, like 2 minutes before the draft starts.
2 years ago, it's because my whole write-up, like 7,000 words in, got deleted like a few days before the draft, which sucked horribly. And then last year, I had something come up with work that like took me away. Like I had planned for it to come out a full week before, and then something stole like 6-7 days of my time, and I was like, oh no.
Listen to this guy with the real
no.
job. Look at this.
I was
Listen to this
stressing.
nerd.
I was stressing. I was so mad when I posted it last year. I would just press submit, and I walked away and never looked at it again.
So you said you lost your rankings?
Yeah, you were there when my computer died.
You ever heard it? Oh yeah, we've been over this. You ever heard of Google Docs?
Yeah. There was a reason. There was like a very rough version there was a Google Doc version. That's what I took the template.
Once again,
of, like
a day in the life of Sam McGilligan.
I can't even remember why I ended up going on like a Microsoft Word thing. I did end up doing something with it.
You're a child of the 2000s, I suppose.
No, I hate Microsoft Word. That's the worst part about it. It might be one of the only things I ever took off of Google Drive, and then I lost it.
Yeah,
I was like, well, the amount of things that had to go wrong to get to this stage is a life lesson to never use Microsoft Word again.
Right. Yeah, I don't know when the last time I've opened Microsoft Word was. I mean, at work I do sometimes, but not anyway. Moving on, because there I think are a lot of questions to get through. Someone asked about Easton Cowan's plus 1 year, which has been just
I haven't seen
bonkers. I've seen a couple of games, so we can cover that. And does he make Team Canada? I think he will. I just the smarts that he's got and the effort level that you get out of him, like Canada's going to need as much as they can get in this tournament, and so I think he's going to be on the team. Also mentions Noah Chadwick, a guy who also plays with Miguel Marquez, become a much better puck mover than what I remember watching last year. A little bit smoother on his feet, and certainly shooting the puck more. So he's scoring more points. But yeah, Easton Cowan. I mean, the thing about Easton Cowan that's so good is that he's really, really, really smart. Like when he touches the puck, he usually makes good plays with it. Yeah. Not super selfish, not overhandling, not underhandling. Like he kind of knows what needs to be done and how. His effort level is really good. And I think this year he's a little quicker than he was last year. And I think having the experience of playing at an NHL pace, even if it was in the preseason, but getting a few games there, seeing what that was like, I think that does give you a bit of a boost in a way.
I think so too.
I mean, I'm still surprised at just how much he's scoring. Just after watching him in the OHL, like I still look at a guy like Denver Barkey, who's also scoring a ton for the London Knights this year, and I still go, I feel like this guy's a little bit, maybe not as refined and boiled down as a really solid puck moving hockey player, but boy, is he ever fun! But like another really, really, really fun player to watch play hockey.
Very few. I'm a Habs fan. We've already went over this. Very few players have ever earned a rightful Brendan Gallagher comparison, but Denver Barkey, man.
Maybe. Maybe.
I'm not saying he reaches it, but just in the way he plays, you can tell that guy watched some Gallagher and was like, I should incorporate some of that in my game.
Yeah. The next question comes from
you did miss
Mr.
one.
Did I?
There is one about what happened to Kent Johnson and the rest of the CBJ prospects.
That team is doing a bit of an implosion right now.
Well, I mean, the Columbus Blue Jackets, again, on Scouching.ca, you can get access to a massive database of every drafted prospect in the NHL by team, so you can check them out yourself. But according to my quote-unquote model, the Columbus Blue Jackets are sitting with the third highest performing prospect pool in the National Hockey League. Like, I've watched a couple of Ken Johnson games. I watched one in the AHL and one in the NHL. And I feel like he's still Kent Johnson, but he's less Kent Johnson than he was, especially with like the handling and the...
This is a good thing.
Yes, it's a good thing. He's still got the skill. He's not the highest pace guy in the world, but he's a really good problem solver, really good playmaker, and he can shoot too. Like he can score.
Yeah, he can shoot.
And so when I look at him, in the AHL, I think the reason he went back down there was just confidence. Like, he wasn't playing a ton with the Blue Jackets.
Nothing wrong with like when you're in your first 3 years and you're not on a team where that's like, a healthy, structured environment all the time. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened with Columbus that we don't need to dive into, but I mean, everyone knows what we're referring to when we say this. And I don't know if that plays into it or not, but where I'm going with this is taking somebody and just putting them in the HL and just being like, these guys cannot stop you.
Mm-hmm.
We encourage you to take advantage of that and get comfortable doing so because we expect this from you in Columbus soon. There's nothing wrong with this. It's not it's not a slight on the player, man. Development is just weird and can go so many different ways. It's like when people get mad when a player gets scratched for like 3 games.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I think he's going to be fine. Again, in the AHL, he looked great.
His skill level is insane in the NHL. Like,
yeah,
like guys in the AHL, very few can even think about the stuff that Kent Johnson can do with his hands.
I do remain steadfast that he probably either left college too early or got into the NHL too quick, one or the other.
I think that's a fair thing to say. One more, I did expect another year at Michigan.
Yeah,
I expected him to be like the dog.
Yeah, like give him a year with the keys to the Ferrari, right? Like, but he didn't quite get that. But again, I think we're nitpicking a little bit. He's looked good. I think a lot of it is like a mental thing to play his style in the NHL and sort of really push and get there. But I mean, the rest of their prospects, I mean, I don't know what you mean, but like I'm not a huge Denton Matejchuk guy, but he's having a monster year and he'll probably be in the World Juniors. Jordan Dumais, also not a huge fan of him, but he's having a monster year. Andrew Strathman, I just saw multiple games of him recently while running through the Youngstown like 2006 guys, and he's just so funny. There was a play where I watched him just kind of really choke like a rush defense and a guy got by him, but he wasn't the fastest player, so Strathman caught up and just launched him with a hip check, and then the camera kind of panned away and this scrum started. Yep.
And then it skips forward. It skipped forward like 10 minutes. So I don't actually this didn't have anything to do with it, but when it skipped, it was a Youngstown penalty kill, and I went, that's over in 8 seconds, and I'm about to see Andrew Strathman get out of the box.
Right.
And then 8 seconds later, Strathman got out for an entirely different penalty than the one that I saw on the prior shift.
He's an interesting hockey player for sure.
He's awesome. I am a fan of Andrew Strathman. I don't know what he becomes in terms of an NHL prospect, but he's just a wild card to watch. He's awesome.
I mean, I've liked Adam Fantilli in the NHL for a rookie. Like, I thought
Fantilli's going
good.
to be fine. Like, people, if anybody has any hesitations about Fantilli, we all liked him better than we liked Quentin Byfield, who is proving that you should be patient with these guys.
Yeah, I like Luca Pinelli, obviously. I had him high on my list. He's got 21 goals in 25 games this year.
He has 21 goals this year?
8 assists.
He's part of the goal assist club, sorry.
The Ottawa 67s do not have much of an offensive supporting cast around him.
So he is the offensive supporting cast?
Generally, I would say. But, I mean, either way, the guy, I feel like there's assists there to be had because I remember him not being just a shooty boy last year. But maybe I haven't seen very much of him this year, honestly. Gavin Brindley's part of the crew. Stanislav Svazil. David Jiricek, I think, has looked solid.
Oh, I love Jiricek.
He's looked good.
I mean, we said this last week. We don't need to go into Jiricek again, but like the Columbus pool itself is fine. The team is kind of in a weird spot. If guys need to go to the AHL for a year and they're like under 22, it's not something to really overthink. I will just really the Kent Johnson thing. Just adding one more fast point. A lot of skill, even when it looks crazy in the NHL, it's really hard for them when they're not explosive skaters at the same time.
Yes.
They run out of space so fast and they can't do anything about it because your hands can only take you so far. And NHL players know, well, if you can't move, I will just run you over.
Yes.
And there's nothing that a kid who's not like, I mean, he's gotten a lot stronger than his draft year, of course, and he's probably getting close to like his NHL form that he'll be playing in. But like,
right.
It's fine to give him more time. If he can make it and play at that level and just kind of have some issues here and there, it's fine. And if he's in the AHL and he's just dominating, it's also fine. It's all fine. He's Kent Johnson.
So we can probably bang through the next few pretty quick. Is there a reason for Zach Benson to go to the World Juniors? He seems at home in the NHL and the Sabres need their best player, LOL.
Confidence, and because it's a memorable experience for these players that you kind of don't want to it's just like a relationship thing.
NHL.
I mean, I'm fine with
Put him
it.
in the NHL. He's been
I'm
so good.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm
Oh,
fine
man.
with either or. It's
Yeah,
just
like-
that's what if a team sends a kid down like that, there's
If-
usually it's a good. I don't know.
I don't know. In my mind, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, if it's
and
not
he
fun,
is-
like Benson's an NHL player.
I
can't
did
believe
not
I'm
think he
saying
was
that,
going to
but
be in the NHL right now, but I wouldn't rock the boat at all.
some part of me last year had like not saying that I was going to be in the NHL, but like he just like he acclimates and adjusts to everything thrown at him so quickly.
It's that
just,
style of play,
it's
right?
like what's exactly stopping him from being in the NHL? And I went, I guess just not a bit. He just needs a bit more size, a bit more, or like a bit more strength, and a bit
Yeah.
more speed, and just like some timing, just getting used to the timing. But then I guess now that we see him here, I'm like, well, the only way he was going to get used to the timing was going to be playing here. So
yeah,
as well, just okay, he's an NHL guy.
right. So here's another one we can bang out. Where would Macklin Celebrini go if it were last year? So I'm gonna just list off names and say, would you rather? So you would you prefer him over Will Smith?
Yes.
Would you prefer him over Oliver Moore,
Yes.
Leo Carlson,
No.
Matvey Michkov, Adam Fantilli, Connor Bedard?
No.
Yeah,
no,
fair enough. I
no.
think I would agree with that. Put him around 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
You know?
mean, there's an argument. He's in the same tier as like the top 4. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like that Michkov Carlson tier that existed. Like he's in that tier. Like that's how I had it. It was like Bedard his own tier, Fantilli his own, Michkov, Carlson in their own. All 4 of them were like first overall caliber players, and Macklin Celebrini being a first overall caliber player fits right in there. You can probably argue him like they're all close enough where they have arguments over each other. Just kind of depends on like your personal preference at that point.
Yeah.
I lean the first 4 because the fact that all 4 of them were in the same draft with Zach Benson is like 23 was goated. 23 was goated draft.
It was a good
man.
year. Yeah. It was a good
an
time.
insane draft.
Yeah. 2020 and 2023. Those were good times.
Those were great times.
Those were the best of times. It was.
And 2024 is one of the times.
It is a time. Yeah.
It's a time.
We got a question from Matatron, who I believe is from the Centennial podcast. Good group of young fellas. Do you generally dislike defensemen who play cowboy hockey, or are there some you like and some you don't? Over the years, I have become less it's less of a preference.
I've seen a lot of these guys now just not work out. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's like I was like, the NHL doesn't get it. These guys are awesome. And now I've seen what they are at like 22. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
I will say
crap.
it's so funny because we're not the only people who experience this, but like when you really start sitting down and watching like hundreds of hockey games a year, which I feel like we probably do. At least I know I've crossed into the hundreds a year. You sort of slowly start to turn into a hockey man.
You just see
It's
why
like it's like you think it's not going to happen to you, but it's going to happen to you.
It's like all those other. It's like the hockey equivalent of like I'll tell you when you're older,
Yeah.
or something like that. Like your parents would say to you when you're a teenager, and you'd be like, I don't get it. It's like you're. It's like a hockey. I don't. It's gross, but it's like a hockey puberty thing almost. It's like I'm on the other side of it now, and it's like, okay, a lot of this actually does make sense. I still think like there's a lot of funny things. Like I wouldn't call myself a hockey man, but a lot of things that get associated under hockey man thinking is actually just like, well, that's how hockey works at the highest level. Like you don't understand. These guys are more fun. They're more creative. They're dynamic as all hell. But like if they don't do X, Y, Z, there's like things you have to be able to do. If you cannot do them, it doesn't matter what else you can do. No coach wants to play you.
Within reason.
Yeah.
I think it's all within reason. Because making a joke about being a hockey man is one thing, but for me, it's like I still think that there's a little bit of silliness out there. Right? There's a lot of silliness.
It's like we're not hockey men, but like I'm more sympathetic to it.
It's more about recognizing what defending actually is. It's like again, every hockey is a sport where things are sometimes made up and the points often don't matter. Like I was tracking a game of Zane Parekh, and I feel like I was blowing up your phone by just sending clips of Zane Parekh not playing defense, like
yeah, that was
at all.
And I've seen this from him in my own viewings. I went and I watched him last week too because you had me going, and I sat there, I watched the game, and I was like, every time, not every time, but a lot of the time in the D zone, I'm like, brother,
Yeah,
you shouldn't be doing this now. You will never be in no NHL coach. You will be. It's one of those editions where like you'll see the young player getting screamed at by a coach, and they're like, fans are like, you can't do that, and it's like, well, you actually no, they're right. You shouldn't do that. But like at some point, it's like you're in the NHL, man. You can't like shy away.
yeah.
You're on a defense. You're in a D zone recovery as a defenseman.
Well, and it's not even like the lack. It's like I can forgive it if there's tools there where I'm going, okay, like he's moving well, he's just not applying it. And I don't really even see that in Parekh. Like I see a really skilled defenseman and a guy who's really confident in the offensive zone,
As he should be.
As he should be. And like there's a reason he's on pace for 98 points this year.
Yes.
But again, he's a guy where I'm sort of sitting there going, if it's the first round in the NHL draft, you don't want to miss, and you want a guy who you can rely on game in, game out. And I don't know if that's going to be Zane Parekh.
Yeah.
I know we're just picking on him as an example. Like
there's a lot.
And on the other side of the coin, like, because you're turning into hockey men, like Anton Salayev is a guy who I think hockey men can't help but go, what about this guy? Like, what's this guy going to be? And that kind of scares me still, because I look at it and go, well, there's a long way to go there. Like, I think he's got a long way to go to becoming, I don't know what, right? Like, I don't know what he's going to be, because a lot of it is a really mixed bag. And so, yeah, like you can look at him and be like, well, he's 6'7". What could he possibly do at 6'7"? It's like, well, I remember once upon a time, Boris Valabik was a top 10 pick. That might be aging me a lot, but that was an Atlanta Thrashers first round draft pick. He was 6'7", played at a pretty high level, and just was not it.
I have never heard that name in my life.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, because I think he was drafted in like 2006 or something. But anyway, yeah, I'm getting older.
I'm just here to make you feel old, Will. That's all my job is.
Yeah, I know. But in any case, I to answer the question, I think those are the types of players that you draft later and try to see what happens. Like Luca Cagnoni is a good example of that.
Yeah, like I graded Cagnoni as a first round guy, but it's one of those like, I know no one's taking him in the first.
Right.
Like it's almost like I found him to be, I think it was like, I see you as the 24th most interesting guy, and I like you more than everyone else except for 23 dudes.
Yeah.
But I'm never using a first round pick on you.
Yeah, probably not.
It's
coward.
You cannot miss on a first round pick. And that's like, I've written about this and I've said it on things before. It's just like, man, the way people on like online talk about first round picks, it's like, wow, it's almost like you forget that you're just tweeting about it. And these people have to sit there and answer and be accountable for things that they do.
Yeah.
And you do this long enough and you see the amount of guys, you're like, no, you're the exception. And you watched all of your exceptions not work out. You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
The confidence I would have spoken about a guy like Marcus Almquist a few years ago. I mean, I was a big fan. That was a huge lesson learned for me. And I was just like, it was never something where I was like, I believed he was a surefire thing, but I was like, out of all the exciting prospects, he's someone I would take at this point. It's like, maybe like a 7th round swing, but he went undrafted, and I totally see like why.
In your defense,
he was sick, and
he's 20.
Yes.
And he's a point a game in the Denmark Pro League. So maybe there's a chance. He did play with Victoria, which is not great.
Great. That's a team.
I mean, I don't think he's an NHLer, but
no,
he is a lot of fun to watch.
and he's just like one example of many where it's just like, I think another great one was Matthew Mania last year, who I'm like was probably worth maybe a bit higher of a pick, but it's like for everything to come together there, to even make him like a guy you want on the third pairing is like a lot has to happen, and there's just other guys. Do I take the like 6'6" dude who can't really, or like the 6'4" dude who can't like really play all too well at like this random level over in Europe, and then just like kind of has never been anything more than a guy whenever he plays, but he's big over Matthew Mania? No, but there's a lot of other guys where I'm like, yeah, I can see how an NHL team was like just spooked and just like didn't rate him the same way as the public did.
Yeah. So I guess the short answer is I'm more doubtful than I was.
Yeah.
But I'm still on they're probably worth drafting still, especially if they're available later. Like Andrew Strathman's a good example of like a Cowboy where he went. Sure, take your chance, take your swing.
Yeah.
Another question: who are the best and underrated players available for trade right now? So what I did was I pulled up the Athletics NHL trade board. There are 23 names on it, so we don't need to go through all of them, but I'll just highlight a few that stick out to me. Noah Hannafin, I mean, say what you will, like if you want to talk about Cowboys, he's a bit of one. Elias Lindholm and Chris Tanev, also Calgary Flames. I mean, we'll see what happens with those guys. I don't mind Chris Tanev. If you need a solid defenseman, you can get him.
Yeah.
Same thing with a really solid, talented offensive center in Elias Lindholm.
Lindholm, I'm a huge fan
really,
of,
really good player.
Like, that can do a lot of sick stuff.
Yeah. Ilya Lyubushkin is up here on the list, and I mean AJ and I saw a lot of him at one point.
Yes, we did.
He's an interesting one. I don't know if he's a great player, but he's certainly fun to watch. He's like a discount Nikita Zadorov, so maybe someone's looking for that.
Bring him back,
and we'll pay a lot.
Bring him back.
Yeah. Jake Allen is on here. Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I think he'll trade.
Strangely enough, Morgan Frost is on here.
Why?
I mean, I think he's just kind of underperformed. Like he's just been.
That's fair.
I think he's on there mainly because he got a bunch of scratches at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I think that's the main reason that he's on that.
Sean Monahan is on this list. There's Sean Monahan.
Sean Monahan, man, that was such a crazy trade. Such a crazy trade. Took a 25 first of a team that's not going to be good in 25, and got a player who, had he not been hurt, would have been worth another first had they flipped him. Like that's a Went Hughes move.
Yeah, that's a good move. Anthony Mantha's on here. I don't know if I'd throw him in the ring.
Is he?
Yeah, I would say one interesting name that's on this list is Patrick Laine. Now, I wouldn't get Patrick Laine for the money he's being paid, but if I had a really good team and a little bit of cap space, and I could say, do what was it Toronto who did this, where was it Jake McCabe, and they traded him twice, or like he went through another team who retained the salary,
the double retention.
Like, if I don't know what you'd have to pay to make that happen, but like for Columbus to retain on Patrick Laine's contract, I feel like it's huge. I'm just gonna look it up now. What a specific
the guy claps bombs.
Yeah, so
you want a power play boost for the playoffs who can also score some 5v5 guys, and you have like room for, like, if you can bury him, if not bury, but if you can get him in like the middle six and you have like a playoff core and line is in addition to it, then you're really cooking. And if not, then stay the hell away from that trade.
If you could get a Patrick Laine for say $4.35 million for the next 3 years, and Columbus was willing to keep $4.35 million on the books and get assets for him, I feel like you could do a lot worse with $4.35 million. And that's one retention. So
that will
who
happen
knows?
In the summer.
Yeah. So who knows what comes with him? But he's an interesting one because I feel like he's just a player where it's like Phil Kessel in Toronto, where it's like, obviously you have your warts. Obviously there are issues, but he's still Patrick Laine. Like, in the right situation, I feel like, you shelter him a little bit. He's not the guy, and he could be very helpful. Anthony Duclair is another one who's on this list. I think he could be he's always that sneaky guy that gets traded for like a pick and does well everywhere he goes. Yeah. So maybe that's another one. But those are the ones that stick out to me, at least. We got a question about Aaron Kiviharu. I mean, we talked about him a bit last week. I mean, really smart puck mover. It's like, what do you hate or like in his game? Really smart puck mover. The rest is
him passing, and I like him when he's moving the puck with space and he's not under crazy pressure, and everything else needs to kind of improve a bit to kind of be the player. And the name, reputation, and prestige surrounding the name Aaron Kiviharu is more high end than the player himself is today.
Yeah,
he's been injured, and maybe he could have been like kind of outproven this point. So like, I don't know. I like players like him, but I guess this goes back to the hockey man thing. It's like Kiviharu is one of those guys where when I look at him, I'm like, man, in 2020, me and you, we would have been I would have been out in your corner. And now when I'm watching him, I'm like, brother,
yeah,
you kind of scare the shit out of me.
yeah, a little bit, eh? Okay, what about this year's top 10? How would it relate to previous years? I think it's very balanced compared to previous years. It kind of reminds me of 2021, where it's like a guy like a Matthew Beniers. I know he didn't go first overall, but he kind of was the guy that was really moving the needle. I mean, I think Celebrini is probably number one in that class, but beyond
Celebrini is a higher end player, and honestly, I'd say Demidov is too, but that's just because I'm a huge believer in the demigod.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Celebrini and Demidov would make it a little bit more higher end, but I don't think you get guys like Volstedt, Luke Hughes, and Ken Johnson in them at later on. You know what I mean? Like the second half of the top 10. Fabian Liesel didn't go in the top 10.
Doesn't matter. Mention him.
McTavish and them. Like McTavish is also just much better than I thought he was going to be. 2021 was also just I hate using it as a comparison year because it was the COVID year where Canada didn't really play and the OHL guys went to pro, and then I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know how to evaluate this as much, and it was really easy to overthink situations when you don't have the resources to talk to players and do video sessions with them.
Yeah.
And I found that's the draft list when I look at it. I'm like, man, you can just see so many moments of overthinking here. Wow.
Yeah. Since we only have half an hour left, I am going to have to sort of pound through and skip some questions. But someone asked about, because of the Ducks jersey, if you don't know, I'm wearing the Wild Wing reverse retro, which with Paul Correa on the back. That's sick. One of my favorite players from my childhood. It's been about 25 games. How do you feel about Leo Carlsson? I think he's looked fantastic. But a lot of people were dunking on the Ducks for picking him over Fantilli. So I wouldn't have taken over Fantilli, but
he doesn't mean it was a bad pick.
It's like heads or tails on a coin. It's still a quarter.
Look at Leo Carl. Look, the way I see it is this: I wouldn't have taken Carlsson over Fantilli, but Leo Carlsson's doing very, 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 very good, and everyone should be super happy with. Or every Ducks fan should just be super happy with that. He's a franchise. He's a guy you can place on your first line and be like, hey, look at that. A first line center on the team that already has Trevor Zegras. Wow.
And he was never really in doubt of being a good NHL player.
He was never in doubt. It was a slight upside trade-off, I guess, for something else but it's who cares?
Yeah.
It's literally, it's so close.
I found him quite I think he's taken a step with his quickness and his skating. I remember early last year kind of going, okay, he's fine, but he's much more dependent on resilience, keeping guys away from him, battling out of pressure. But then as the year went on, he just sort of got quicker and more confident and pushed things a little bit more. And at the World Championship, you looked great. In retrospect, should I have had Carlsson in a tier with Fantilli? Probably. But he was 3 to Fantilli's 2, and honestly, when he got picked, I went, okay, I get it. I wouldn't do it, but I get it.
Yeah, that's the exact same reaction I had. I went, oh, that's interesting. We're starting off like that. All right, I'm cool with it. But I remember I was talking to Jay from Locked On Blue Jackets, and I was just so excited for Fantilli to go to Columbus. I guess just because of Jay, I was like, okay, we were talking, I was like, do you think Fantilli's gonna fall? And I'm just like, no.
Yeah, no.
And then it happened.
And
I messaged him and I was just like, oh, Jay.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Just losing our minds together about how happy I was. And it's just this is awesome. This is fantastic. And then here's Leo being a god and Adam will be. And it's just and so will Michkov.
Well, that's a whole other topic of conversation.
Not gonna open that one.
Gavin McKenna, is he legit? I think so, very much.
I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but I can say that there's some good talk about him.
Very, very talented player. Huge fan of Gavin McKenna. I mean, it's hard not to be. He's a 2026 eligible, and I think he's over a point
guy.
Yeah.
I did see Gavin McKenna a couple times. And some highlights were sent to me as well. Yes, he's gross.
Yeah. Someone mentioned while we were talking about the Habs that Engstrom has three quote unquote 3 times the success. I don't know what that means. 3 times the success of Norlinder in Sweden. I agree. Not a lot of people are talking about Adam Engstrom, but I think he's one that should be getting a little bit more positive attention. I mean, I don't know how good of an NHL player he is, but it was a 3rd-round pick that, I think that he's doing quite well for a puck handling offensive guy. I dig him. Okay, what's the problem with Filip Zadina? I haven't seen enough of the Sharks to know, but maybe
the Sharks as a team is a problem with Filip Zadina. And I was part of the group that overrated him, so like I'm holding myself accountable when saying this. Zadina was a little overrated from the begin with because of a World Junior performance and some crazy scoring in the QMJHL, which is a league that you should really stop looking at for crazy performances and scoring. He probably needs line mates catered to him, but doesn't bring the results you want from someone. It's like an opportunity cost thing with him, and guys who fall into that opportunity cost question can very quickly be kind of tossed to the side and never live up to their upside. And it's kind of understandable why NHL teams do it over time. It's like Zadina was a player who, if everything broke right for him, the right guys were there and everything, he could have been better. But you're asking a lot of an NHL team to do that for a guy who's like, there's other players you want to like build around, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think also like there's just, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a little bit of him over the years. I always felt that there was more to get out of him, but I don't know. They're very quickly approaching squeezing a rock to try to get water out of it. Like what's that saying? It's like squeezing a stone to get, I don't know, whatever. I'm still tired.
I want to try that after work.
That sounds so gross. Oh God. Someone also mentioned a name that might be on the World Junior team for Canada, who I totally forgot was Canadian because he's playing college, but that's Bradley Nadeau. Now, I've been a big Bradley Nadeau fan for a while. I mean, I thought where he was drafted kind of made sense. There were other players I liked more, but he's a ton of fun to watch. High flying, high skill, high offense guy. He's got 19 points in 12 games for the University of Maine, who for the last few years, Paul Correa's alum, by the way, his alma mater. I don't know why I tapped my tummy on that one, but anyway.
Paul Correa lives inside us all.
He does, yeah. He lives inside my heart forever. But University of Maine has not had the best team for a while, and now all of a sudden they're looking pretty good, and a lot of it comes down to Bradley Nadeau.
Shocked when he went in the first round, and I kind of started to sour on him a bit towards the end of the year, thinking I was like, I don't know if he's the guy that I want to like take, or just there's other ones I'm interested more in, but I'm very curious to see who does in the NCAA. And it's just awesome. Like, he's someone who I'm very happy to see the success for and be like, you know what? Good. The doubts were, it was wrong to doubt him, and stuff happens sometimes. And you know what, kid, just go rock him. And you're so fun to watch.
Yeah. And if I were the Carolina Hurricanes, I would just, if he's a one and done in college, which I don't think is that crazy, maybe he's 2 years, but just pick up his brother too, because him and his brother are dominant. Like they both have 19 points this year, and they're both freshmen. They're both great. I've always really liked Josh Nadeau. I don't know about an NHL player, but I mean, if they work really well together and nobody's bothering with Josh Nadeau, and I don't think he's eligible anymore for the draft, then you may as well just go out and, offer him a deal, and maybe he'll sign to play with his brother in Carolina, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
What about Charlie Stramel not getting on the World Junior team? I am not surprised.
I am not surprised at
I don't
all.
know. I don't know what happened to him. I was never huge.
I was just about to say the exact same sentence.
Yeah, not huge on Stramel, but I mean, my thing with him was always, well, he shows the signs of being like a Jordan Greenway, where you just go to him on the bench and you're like, all right, go out there and blast guys. Like just skate hard, hit guys, free up pucks, go to the net, and just go.
Grind it out.
And he just doesn't, like, there's more to the game than that. And he doesn't seem to be doing that. And the rest of it is just like, his puck handling has always been really iffy. His speed has always been pretty iffy, but
I remember there were moments last year when I'd see him and be like, okay, you've got a bit more into him. But every time I watched Charlie Stramel, I was always like, you're playing in the NHL for sure, but you're not playing in an upside role. And it's like, when do I reach it was always, his ranking was always like, what point in the draft do I reach where I just want to get a guy?
Yeah.
And when do I, like, he's a guy who did have he technically does have more upside because like he can do some things with the puck sometimes where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like that, okay. But like lots of players have flashes like that because lots of players have that in their game, but lots of players are capable of it, but they don't have it in their game is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. It's just Riley Height. It was one of those drafts where like they kind of did the first round pick that surprised me, but then made up for it in the second round. Like taking Riley Height at 64th or whatever, that's a first round caliber player. Like I had Height around the range that Stramel went, and then if you see it as Stramel went 64th, then you're doing a lot. Like I had Stramel like I think mid 40s or something. It's like you feel a lot better about that.
And again, I again, also sorry, my brain farted out there for a second.
Yeah.
But in any case, I mean, I think that's perfectly reasonable. It is a bit surprising considering he's been on 2 World Junior teams and now he's no longer on it, but such is life. I mean, again, that team is so deep. Like who do you pull from the team and put on Charlie Stramel? Probably nobody.
It's a really good team. And a lot of draft eligible guys last year are more reasonable guys to pick, whereas Stramel was like, look at him. He's already playing college hockey. He's a big guy. There's a potential there. Like they took Brindley as well. They clearly like the idea of taking some of the draft eligible college guys. They don't seem to be as scared of that as like Canada is to take like the younger players.
Yeah.
And Stramel did fine. But it's just, there's a lot of guys, man.
Yeah. And I mean, like you were talking about Riley Height, probably a World Junior guy. It's entirely possible. Someone else asked about Andrew Crystal. Also maybe a World Junior guy. Like I don't trust Hockey Canada as far as I can throw them with like looking at a guy like Crystal and saying,
I mean Crystal's the type of player that like Hockey Canada like will like kind of pass up, especially because there's been moments where when I see him he's not like paired with like the players I want him to be paired with and stuff. And I know that's me at wanting more and it shouldn't have that expectation, but like man, Andrew Crystal is still disgusting. The whole hockey world before the NHL, before it came out that the NHL did not agree with hockey Twitter, was obsessed with him. They were like top 10, top 5, this, that, and the other. And then there was like, the NHL was like, yeah, but we're concerned with his feet. And everyone was like, I'm also concerned with his feet. And the NHL was like, we're not going to take him in the first round. And everyone was like, well, I better preemptively lower him very slowly throughout the year.
What a strange sentence. I'm worried about his feet. Well, we're actually podiatrists now. Yeah, we're the podiatrist show.
Yeah.
Okay. EJ Emery's Brian Stewart asked about EJ Emery. I've seen him here and there. I am surprised to see him in the first round.
I don't think that's a first round guy.
Yeah, I did a game of his and
I've watched him since like last year too.
Yeah.
Since the puck prep stuff. Like I've seen him before the draft here, and it's like I can like he does the right thing when the play comes his way. Like he's just a guy who plays like solid hockey through and through, and I get it's a draft where a lot of guys aren't like standing out, and usually there's an NTDP guy where people are like yeah, and like I think a lot of people are expecting it to be Cole Hudson, and they're watching him and they're kind of going like, oh, that's a lot of scary. And Logan Hensler isn't eligible, and Will Skahan is also like just like he plays the game in front of him, and it's just like that's kind of like how it is sometimes.
Yeah.
And people don't want to acknowledge that John Whipple is sick. So we get to the EJ Emery train, and it's just like when I see EJ Emery in the first round and John Whipple not, I'm like, I mean, I can't speak for why some people have him there and why others like don't, but like the lack of John Whipple discussion while EJ Emery has been like popping up a lot more recently. Like I think I first saw him in elite prospects list, and I know the EP team, like they have their process. So when they do stuff, you know, I may not agree with them. They may not agree with like our stuff. And it's like, that's just, you know, that's how it is. And then like Emery's popped up a lot more after that, since probably that put more people's eyes on him. And then now I'm just saying, everybody go watch John Whipple.
I mean, yeah, we were talking about how the older we get, the more hockey man we become. We're not so hockey man that we can look at guys like Will Skahan and EJ Emery and go, these are first round picks. Like we're not there yet.
Yeah, like there's like I still want like a hockey player who's like when we say hockey man, we're sick of taking on unnecessary risk when there's a lot of like these guys carry factors that often don't lead to success. But we're still upside. Like I want to take the best goddamn player I can get, and I want him to be skilled and fast and like play modern hockey in every way. I want a super modern team, but that modern team doesn't play like the fantasy it did in my head a few years ago, where all the defensemen were just like dancing around there and like da, 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 and like super aggressive and activating deep in the ozone and all that stuff. It's like that stuff terrifies the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And there's the other side of it where there's just the guys who are like, there's the lane, pass.
Right.
And then there's another lane, pass.
Yeah.
Oh, they left me space to carry it. Carry.
Yeah.
Is like, okay, but what's he doing out there? Like,
Right.
I don't dislike EJ Emery. I think he'll be a solid college player for sure.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Like he's not a bad player. I don't think I have him ranked right now, but just because it's like I don't know where I would draft him, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't get the chance to take him. Like he'll go somewhere before I'd probably be ready to take him, and I'll just find some other big boy to take later. Okay, someone else asked about Ryder Ritchie, who has been a fascinating player to track over the course of the season. His best qualities and his main flaw. I don't know how much you've seen of Ryder Ritchie over the year.
I've seen a bit, but I'll let you.
So let me just do some quick maths in my head. But he started the year on an absolutely
It was a scorching
insane
streak, and he has his production has a bit.
So he had 18 points before Halloween in 15. No, wait, that can't be right.
No, it was less than that.
It was so by the middle of October. So in his first 10 games, he had something like 16 points. I don't want to spend time on camera counting, but he has slowed down significantly and kind of regressed back to around where I thought he probably belongs. I don't mind Ryder Ritchie. I think he's a guy.
Hard.
What?
He plays hard.
He does. Like he's got a good sense of timing, moving the puck. You know, in the offensive zone, he knows to funnel the puck to the net. He knows how to generate offense and tries. I would say his supporting cast with Prince Albert is not great. So that also might explain part of the streakiness.
Yep.
But I think the main flaw is like he's a guy who needs to be in the offensive zone to be at his best. And those are the types of players that always scare me. It's like the rest of the game is kind of secondary, but when they have the puck in the offensive zone, they can put it in front of the net. They can go below the goal line and grind out a play and whatever. So that's the area where I kind of get concerned about him. And I thought I was a little crazy at the beginning of the year watching him and going, how does this guy have like 2 points a game to start the year? I don't really understand. And now he's kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, yeah, like point a game-ish WHL guy. Sure. Like that makes sense to me on a team that isn't great.
My introduction with him was the U17 showcase last year where Canada sent 3 teams. I can't remember if he was on Canada Black, White, or Red. I actually can't remember which team he was on because there's a lot of really good players there. And he kind of didn't stand out. Like I saw moments of him. I remember writing about him and stuff like this and was like, yeah, he did fine. And then I went and I checked where like Joel and everybody had ranked him and went, that feels very fitting. I think he's improved since then. I think he won WHL Rookie of the Year because I think he had like one more point than a few other guys. I don't know if I fully or was on board with that, but
he scored a lot.
He did score a lot of points. So it's like, all right, it happens. I think it's another one of those, like the EP page tells you, builds expectations of a different player.
Yes. I think
stuff like that, you know, like when you look at the stat line and you look at like, then you go and you click on Prince Albert's team and all this stuff. And you're like, yeah, this guy's doing something. And then you're watching them and then you can see him in the ozone, or like you watch like the point highlights on Instat, one of those compilations they have, and you're just like, yeah, okay.
Points.
Yeah. You're just like, okay, I can see how he's doing it. But then you do the shift by shift and you're just like, where is he sometimes? And you're just like, okay, this is a little more. Like there's quite a few other guys I've watched who aren't doing a lot of this, who are doing more.
We got a really beautiful message from Dylan Griffin that I have to read on air. He's congratulating me on finding the only guy dumber than me and getting him to do this stupid show with you. It's really impressive.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah.
Asshole.
So I lost my chat stream. So AJ, if you could bail me out a little bit.
Yes,
I don't know what happened, but it crapped out.
Chaos.
So you just want me to pull up the next question for you?
Sure. I did see the question. I do want to let's say the last 10 minutes of the show discussing, because it's not hockey related, but it's the season, as you can tell by the tree. So give me like 1 or 2 and we'll burn the next 5 minutes.
So Tjigina.
Yes, TJ Ginla.
He's sick.
He's great.
He's awesome.
Tons of fun.
He can shoot and he can pass kind of better than he can shoot, but he's kind of been more of a shooty boy lately.
Well, he has nobody to play with on his line. Like,
Yeah,
he's not
but
playing
he
with
was a
Andrew
passer
Crystal.
From everything I understand beforehand, like I didn't watch him like a whole lot before this year outside. And again, it was like the U17 event and then like catching him here and there. But I remember seeing him and like distributing and like, yeah, dude, you can pass the puck. And now it's just like you can rip the puck. There's a lot of like offensive upside there, and he can just like Ryder Ritchie versus TJ Ginla outside of the offensive zone. Will, who do you want to take there?
Yeah,
it's pretty one-sided there, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So
Ginla's like a high activity and like good at it.
Yeah, and he's young. He's young for the draft class.
Is he?
Yep.
I never check birthdays.
His age is 17.115 on my database, so that's pretty young. That might be like June, I think, something like that. But anyway, I really like him. Like a high intensity guy, high pace. Plays hard. He. You can tell that his dad is definitely like in his ear being like, here's, you got to work hard. Like just his dad, that's how his dad was. Like Jerome Ginla was a hard working guy.
Yes. He was amazing.
He was a great power winger who just scored goals in an era where nobody scored goals. And I think I remember a year where he led the league in scoring. And I think he had like 80 points or something like that. 85
good old
points.
Hockey.
God, that was a weird era.
Good hockey.
Holy.
We've
but
got some good stuff.
The one thing that was in the question is about his pace. Does he have the pace to succeed at an NHL level?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
that's the huge thing about Tish versus Ryder.
Yeah,
like
he's wired.
Pace. He plays with pace. He makes decisions with pace. He doesn't like. There are moments where I'm like, do that a little faster.
Yes.
But like that happens a lot of times when players are like as long as like the bulk of this game is played with pace, I'm very confident in assuming that a few things will catch up. They're 18, they're not finished yet.
Well, like we make jokes all the time about saying like, oh, he's got that dog in him or whatever, right? Like we make jokes, but like there is truth to that in a way where it's like
become a real thing.
Like watch the like AJ and I watching the NHL today. It's like the good teams are the ones who pressure other teams, right? Like the ones who don't. They don't back down. They show up and
force people to make decisions.
Force you to do stuff. And so like that's why a guy like Gavin Brindley stuck out so much to me, because every single time he stepped on the ice, he was giving her.
He had that dog.
He had that dog.
And he like I loved Brindley. I'm just gonna say really quick. I loved Brindley because he had the skill and the mobility to be one of those small guys who were just pure skill and offense and stuff. And he used it really well when the times were right. But when he wasn't, he was a dog.
So TJ Ginla, I agree with Sam where it's like the speed itself is like not quite there, and like
but the pace
escapability and like creating space for himself is not quite there yet. But gosh, he's wired the right way, and I think that's very, very valuable. Yep. I'd also, before we move on to the question we want to end the show on, I did see a question from David DeGerdner based on this topic of conversation. Some of your favorite 2024 eligibles who just PTFG. And if you don't know what PTFG is, one, we should make t-shirts that say PTFG on it. I think that's long overdue.
Yes.
But also, it means play the effing game. Like guys who just go out and just play the effing game. I would throw a guy like Luke Misa in there.
Okay, there's the one. I had two. Luke Misa was one.
I'd throw Berkeley Catton.
Nikita Artemonov.
Nikita Artemonov is another really good one.
Of it. In fact, I'm building off of what I said last week. I've been waiting to slip this in all fucking stream. I'm glad we got it in at the end. Nikita Artemonov is this year's Zach Benson, if there is to be one. Not saying he is like Zach Benson, but you're looking for the dog that's super smart and is always getting the puck and doing the right thing really quickly and moving in the next spot. Nikita Artemonov.
Dude, the walls just started steaming in here. The walls just started steaming with that.
He is so hot sick. Take.
All right. You heard it here first.
I did 2 games of his after last week's stream to make sure I'm not just up my ass. And I came away. I'm like, shit, I think I like him more.
Watch your profanity. That's a meme throwback. If you
watch your profanity.
Watch your profanity. Berkeley Catton I'd throw into the ring there. Who else? I'm just going up and down my list.
Finnish player you sent me earlier today.
Tobias Heinonen. Yeah,
he had some dogs.
He's an interesting one. I don't know if he's like a super good NHL player,
I
but
don't know anything about him.
he
saw
plays
like
the
5
effing
gifs.
game. He plays the effing game, just does it, goes out and plays. Oh man, I don't know. Caden Lindstrom in a way, but he's just really good.
Yeah, in
like,
a way.
I don't know if it's like, the guy who I always think of with PTFG is like Ville Koivunen, where it's like you just throw him over the bench and he just does the right thing a lot, even though it's not the prettiest looking thing. He just does the right thing a lot. And I feel like Artemonov is probably the number one choice there.
Camille Bednarik.
Yeah, Camille Bednarik is a deep cut, but he's an interesting
he's a
one.
PDFG through and through.
I like him a lot. He's flirting with my first round. I like Bednarik quite a bit.
In my first round.
Yeah. So those are those guys. Now, I do want to close the stream on a discussion of, since it is Christmas, if you didn't know, it's the Christmas season, so we don't have to feel guilty about... okay, first things first. Because my sentence that I was about to say doesn't matter. I went to the dealer today to get my car dealt with, and I had to wait a ridiculous amount of time for the shuttle to take me home. And it's not even that far from here. It was really annoying. So I sat there and I forgot my AirPods at home. I figured I didn't need them. They, how many people could possibly on a Monday morning be going to the shop? It was a lot. So anyway, we're sitting there and all I have is my phone to entertain me and the music over the loudspeaker. And it was nonstop Christmas music. I'm already sick of it. It's December 4th.
I did service. I worked produce as my part-time.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I started at 16 and then worked it through school and then just stayed there while I was job hunting after. So we're talking lots of years.
So
yeah, I worked at Loblaws for 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Traumatizing.
Too much.
You feel good for the first, I'd say 6 days, because you're so sick of the 11 months, the 10 months before, where it was the same radio songs, and you're like, I want to feel better, and the Christmas music comes in, and you're like, hell yeah. But then at some point, after roughly 6 days, Mariah starts singing, and you're just like, God, you're just jumping in the box compactor.
You hear the same songs 3 times with 4 different versions as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say. When I was sitting in the dealer today, it was the same. I heard Silver Bells twice in 15 minutes and 2 different versions of Silver Bells.
Third time?
No.
I don't want to say
oh my goodness. It was really something. But even though Christmas music kind of sucks over a long period of time, Christmas movies do not suck.
I watched 2000 Jim Carrey Grinch last night with niece and nephew.
That's a decent one. That's a good one for nieces and nephews. Kids like it.
I was young when that came out.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, I think I saw it in theaters. Anyway,
was I alive?
I don't know. When did that movie come out?
2000.
Yeah.
Then I was just born, probably.
Yeah, the year 2000. Holy smokes! God, time flies.
Did it come out before November?
It came out on November 17th, 2000.
So I was 6 days from being born.
Oh God! Jesus, my God!
Oh man! Oh jeez! Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Oh, Anthony Hopkins narrated that one.
Yeah, but I just saw this. I just saw it in the credits yesterday. It was like, there's no way that's Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. So someone asked about a tier list or favorite Christmas movies, and I figured that's always a fun discussion to have.
I have a really dumb favorite. No, it's actually really good favorite.
Dude, I'm the guy who watches terrible movies on purpose. So
mine's not a bad movie.
No, okay, try me.
Wacko's Wish, the Animaniacs Christmas movie.
Oh, dude,
yo,
Animaniacs.
I know. Legit. I'm not picking a bad. I'm just picking an out of left field one, because it's a bit more of they do the singy boy in that one a bit, but it also so do most Christmas movies. That one is man. I bought it on YouTube because I was sick of having to dive into the depths of stream site hell to find a copy that was recorded on someone's phone.
Yeah. I am always a fan. I watched this with my parents last night. Yeah, Sunday night. And it's Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it.
I have. I was not a Muppets child all too much.
Yeah, neither was I. I came across that movie like when I was in high school. I cry every time. I cried. Like the Tiny Tim parts where it's a tiny little Kermit the Frog and he's like almost brown because he's sick, not green. God, like and the part in the future, I don't want to spoil it. Anyway,
I want to spoil.
I don't want to spoil the Christmas Carol in case you don't know the story of A Christmas Carol. I don't know. There's like AJ, you're born in 2000. When did A Christmas Carol be? When was it written? Like 1860? I wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe a little bit, out of date for people these days and not for us. I don't know. Have you seen any movies, AJ, that are a version of A Christmas Carol?
I think so. I think there was a newer version that came out when I was younger.
Okay, the fact that he's not confident, I think, says a lot because there's some definitive Christmas Carol classics.
I mean,
the Jim Carrey one, the animated Jim Carrey one, maybe.
That's the one I think.
Yeah,
that I would have seen.
Well, my deep cut that I'm going to throw out there is "I'll Be Home for Christmas" with Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement fame. You ever see that one? It is the most vapid and sad Christmas movie, but sad not because of what happens in the movie, but because of what the main character like represents. He basically has to get home by Christmas, and if he does, it was an agreement that his dad would give him his fancy car. So the whole movie is about him getting to his parents' house in time to be given a car.
Is it a 2014 Hyundai Genesis?
I don't
With
remember.
four different tinted windows.
Yeah,
with different tinted windows that, if I'm being honest, you can't tell are different because you can't see both the left side and the right side at the same time. And if you can, then you have gifts that should be doing things other than looking at my car tint windows.
Yeah. Another one I'm going to throw out there. My partner and I watched this, I think, 3 years ago for the first time. And I mean, look, I love Danny DeVito as much as the next guy. And I love Matthew Broderick. Ferris Bueller is one of my favorite movies of all time. Deck the Halls from 2006, where Danny DeVito is an absolutely insane. Oh no, he's the jerk that lives next door. And Matthew Broderick is obsessed with Christmas. And he can't handle that his neighbor is kind of like trying to do subterfuge. I can't remember exactly the plot, but that was terrible. But I recommend watching it if you really like to just despise movies, which I do. I don't know. Maybe there's other people out there. Oh, sorry. My mind just exploded with another one. You can rent this on YouTube. If anyone knows, Samantha Bee, the comedian, she used to be on The Daily Show.
Yeah.
So she's in this movie. It's called Cooper's Christmas. If you have $5 lying around and you're drunk, pay the $5 and have the best hour and a half of your life. It's this movie about a dysfunctional family videotaping their own Christmas party on a video camera. And it's this like candid camera style movie. And it's a family that's just terrible. And they're all dysfunctional for different reasons. And then their even more dysfunctional family members show up. And like it's I can't even explain how insanely depraved that movie is. It just goes off the rails. There's like all kinds of crimes being committed and insanity and just horrific family dynamics. So I highly recommend Cooper's Christmas. That's another great one.
I'm gonna get a word in and say that Home Alone is my favorite Christmas movie.
That is a classic.
I love Home Alone and Home Alone 2.
Some like basic ones and say like Nightmare Before Christmas,
yes,
and like Polar Express and like the Rudolph one, but like
yes, Polar Express is hilarious.
Polar Express is hilarious. Yeah.
And all I got for Christmas was stupid underwear.
That was surprisingly. Wait, what? That was a surprisingly good voice.
Yeah,
thank you.
It was. I can't be the only person also who has seen A Christmas Story, right? Really? Holy crap!
Well, I don't watch movies. Except for Home Alone.
A Christmas Story, it's from 1983. But it's a classic.
Brother.
When we were kids, it became famous because one channel, I can't remember which one on TV, played it 24/7. It played the same movie all day, every day for multiple. Oh, someone mentioned Trailer Park Boys Christmas. That's also another really good one. But A Christmas Story is a classic Christmas movie. It's about a kid who wants a BB gun for Christmas. and everyone is
I
rejecting him.
think I know,
from
I think
having
it was
it.
one of those things where like the teacher wheeled in the TV and like popped it on one time, but like
Right.
I
Don't
was
worry,
one of
Brian
those
Stewart's
kids where if
seen
I
it.
didn't click with the movie,
course
I
he has.
was like using that as an example to do whatever the hell I wanted.
Yeah, it's an incredible piece of film history and some of the best.
For Christmas like specials or something like that, I'd like to heavily throw out the Futurama Murderous Santa episodes.
Yes.
Those are like
Yep.
god tier episodes. They're so good you could just watch them any time of year.
Yep. Ernest Saves Christmas is another good one. I feel like that might be aging me more than you.
I do know that one.
Okay. But like I was given Ernest tapes when I was like 6 and always liked Ernest. I don't know why. I watched an Ernest movie like a year ago just to see what it was like. It doesn't really hold up. Oh, how could I forget Jack Frost with Michael Keaton? The one that's a good one. Am I alone on that? I don't know, but his dad turns into a snowman.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
I've seen
Okay,
that
me
one,
too.
but not.
Okay.
I don't
It's
remember
fine.
it very well.
The last one I'll throw out there before we go, unless you have others you'd like to throw out there that the public might want to know.
Right now, I'm not like I like Christmas movies and I watch them, but I'm not like I don't have like the encyclopedia of them in front of me in my head.
Yeah, I'm a Nicolas Cage fan. Nicolas Cage movies kind of scratch my itch, and just in its own way, like it's just absolutely incredible how.
Of course, you're a
what he
Nick
does.
Cage fan.
Well, yeah,
You like
that
bad
shouldn't surprise
movies.
anyone. Yeah, I do like bad movies, but The Family Man is one that I forgot was kind of based around Christmas, but that's a movie that's also pretty good. He's like an extremely busy, I forget what job he has. He's just some extremely busy guy who's never at home. And then he ends up being transported into an alternate life where he stays with the woman he was originally in love with, and his career is completely different. He's like a tire salesman now, and he just like lives this life to see what it was like. It's really good. It's a good one. I wasn't expecting much, but for a Nicolas Cage movie, it's actually pretty decent.
Ted is also a Christmas movie, kind of.
Which one?
Ted.
Ted, yeah. Ted, yeah, that's part of it.
I'm going to use this as an opportunity to plug a show that is not a Christmas show, but the final season does have a whole like Christmas countdown. Like it's all just set around those days. I think it's just because it was a fun setting to pick, and that's the only Christmas related thing about it. But best show of all time, Mr. Robot, which sounds really dumb, but I promise you
good.
The name is so stupid, but like the show itself is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Oh my God. And
yeah,
like the Christmas thing, the whole just like ending on the Christmas thing, I always thought was just like what a neat little thing to just add in there.
So
and now I get to watch it every year as a Christmas.
Yeah, that's the luxury of these
so
days.
Depressing.
So lots and lots and lots of good stuff for you to all check out. All of these are highly recommended for various different reasons, for sure. So that'll be it for tonight. If you asked a question that we didn't get to, our apologies. You'll just have to come on Thursday, where it's going to be me and the giant portrait again of Rick 5 and producer AJ doing some more NHL slanted coverage. So be sure to tune into that. Again, Samuel, thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
It's always lovely to see you.
It's been I drove 19 hours to get here.
That is true. And let's just go with that being true.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna.
It really isn't.
In 10 minutes.
No, it's not. It's not. But anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. This was a lot of fun, and we'll see you on Thursday.